Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Gonzalez. I'm the lead Adobe evangelist here at the U of A. Thank you for joining me in this workshop. We're going to talk about using templates in InDesign. So how's everybody here feel about InDesign? Maybe in the chat, just do like a 1 to 5. 1 being, I don't know much about it. 5 being, I could run this workshop. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.75. Good, good. I'd give myself a 3.75 as well, to be honest, because although I really like it, it's one of the programs I use less. So I often have to go look up how to do things that I remember. So, just a friendly reminder that it's okay to look things up and be resourceful. We don't have to know everything all of the time. So the theme for today is working from templates. And I changed it slightly. The original one was to recreate a recipe card, which the recording is here and those resources are there as well. But we're going to use a portfolio template this time instead. But we are going to talk a little bit of InDesign background, and then we're going to play and make one together, talk about how to add your assets, how to customize the template that you're working with, and how to share it out. So this is really targeted for folks who want to hit the ground running with InDesign and aren't quite sure if they want to start from a blank document, which nowadays we really push for you to find templates and things to jump off from and customize until you're comfortable to make your own. So you shouldn't feel strange about that. Okay. Before we do anything else, I want to talk about where I found the template we're going to play with, because everybody that's part of the university has access to Adobe Stock now, as long as you've requested a Creative Cloud license. So on Adobe Stock, you can go and search templates, and maybe I would type portfolio. And the one caveat is that templates are usually considered a premium asset, so you'll have to send me a request for it, which I'll share at the end of the workshop. But a lot of them are already licensed. And if you look underneath, it tells you what program, what format it's saved as. So InDesign, and the reason I hovered on this one is you can see a lot of these are already licensed, so you can go and download them without requesting them. They're licensed for the whole university. So most of these are InDesign. There are a few, like here's Illustrator, but most things you'll find in this template, as far as a portfolio, resume, cover letter, any of that stuff, will likely be in InDesign. So this is just a really nice way to find inspiration, to make something really clean without having to do, I guess, the dirty work, right? You just have to bring your own assets to it. Are there any questions about Adobe Stock and finding templates? And I will say, as this is going on, this is on the informal side of things. As you have questions, type them, unmute, whatever you like. I'm here to try and get you some answers. All right, so that is stock. And if we look at our assets, the recipe card stuff is here if you want to try that out later. We're going to play with the photos I provided, the portfolio template. You can see it's called an InDesign T for template file. And we'll talk about why that's important. And there's also some bonus templates in there if you wanted to just check out other portfolio layouts. So just try and give you some things to play with. Okay, so I'm going to play in here for a tiny bit, and then we're actually just going to look at InDesign together and get started. So one thing I try to front load anything about, really anything with using computers, right? But it's especially important with programs like InDesign that link to files. It's really important to have your files organized and stored in a place where they will not be deleted or lost. Because if you have been spending a lot of time making a file and you've been using screenshots from your desktop in it, and then you clean your desktop up one day, next time you open that file up, all of those will have errors saying linked file missing. Maybe I'm speaking from experience. I'm not, I'll let you decide. But you can embed them later, but it is nice to link them instead because that helps it run a little faster. That lets you work what we call non-destructively. It lets you open the files up, edit them, and have them auto update within InDesign, which is really nice. But more than anything, the message here is make a folder for your project and put all relevant files inside that folder. That's the least of the organization you should do. But it does say here, if you're scared you will lose it regardless, you can embed the file by clicking on it and looking in the properties. So that's my spiel about file organization in InDesign before we even jump in. Cool. All right. And then the next thing I want to throw out there is that InDesign, although a lot of us said we're not as familiar with it, in my opinion, if you think about the three big design programs, although I might say there's four with XD now, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, I think InDesign has the lowest learning curve. It can feel like a more predictable word processor, if you will, where you have a lot more control. You feel a lot less frustrated with it doing things for you. You just have to realize how the content works and where the properties live. So everything we put in InDesign goes inside frames. Text, images, graphics, photographs versus graphics, and just design elements. They will be within a frame. In a frame, you will find there's a lot of overlap between the types of frames and what they can do. You can drop a rectangle frame and put text in it. You can, in that same frame, you can put an image and you can convert them in and out of each other. So you might find there's several ways to do the same thing, which is absolutely fine. In this example, we're looking at a template that I made, and I put some placeholder frames that have an X through them that just says something's going to go here. I could drop text, I could fill it with a color, I could put a photograph in it. But there are a few different ones, and let's go ahead and look at them. And I think this resource, I'm not going to jump into it again because this is your resource to review things, learn things. It's where I'll put this recording as well. So let's go ahead and leave. This is all good. All right. So I made this welcome page. And maybe this is, well, there's three frames here. There's a text frame with a fill. There's a picture frame. And there's a second text frame. And that's all that's going on there. So let's say I wanted to add, and I'm using my favorite keyboard shortcut right now, Command or Control Z, to just undo all of that. If I wanted to add another image in here, I could draw a frame using this rectangle frame or the rectangle tool. It doesn't matter which one. I could draw this one, or I could draw this one. I think the type frame is the only one that you can't just drop a picture into. But here I have two different, they're not quite squares, but I can go to maybe my library and I can put this cat in here. And I can put the same cat in here. And the results are identical, right? So but the story here is don't get hung up about which frames to do what. You could just use the same frame tool to do an entire layout if you wanted to. While we're here, I could click on this picture and I could use the frame fitting option to make it actually the right size. It's a very handsome cat. Let's talk about a few navigational keyboard shortcuts. Again, this is going to be like 45 minutes or so together where we're just going to make something and you'll have your resources to review later. But one thing you might want to consider committing to memory is how to zoom in and out, which is Command plus or Control plus, Command or Control minus, and then Command or Control 0. So Command minus zooms out, plus zooms in, and it'll center on whatever object you have selected. And 0 will fit your current page to your view. So as you're trying to be precise and create something that shows, artistic intent or whatever you like, you'll really want to zoom in and see how everything is lining up together. So Command plus, Command minus, and Command 0, or Control. And then while you're zoomed in, if you're on a laptop, you can use the trackpad to move around. I find I go a little cross-eyed, it moves a little too fast for me. So I prefer to hold spacebar on my keyboard, and it turns my mouse into a hand tool. And the hand tool is literally like you're grabbing your canvas, your design, and just moving it around. So if I hold spacebar, get a hand tool, and it's kind of cute when you click, it actually grabs. So you're clicking and moving it around. Unlike Photoshop, it doesn't have gravity, so I always want it to keep going when I let go, but InDesign doesn't have it yet. All right. We talked about frames for a split second, and we'll jump into them more, but are there any questions so far? I just talked about navigating our design more than anything. Okay. So then our workspace, in the center, we have our spread, and depending on your file and the way you set it up, you might scroll down and see multiple pages, because that's one of the strengths of InDesign. It's excellent for publishing web or print content that will have multiple pages. On the left-hand side are our toolbars, is our toolbar. And the first tool is the selection tool, which the keyboard shortcut is V. So that lets you grab content and move it around and change the size of it. And then really we'll use the type tool today, which lets you draw a frame and put text in it. And that text is teeny tiny. I can resize it over here in the properties if I want. Pretty good. And then we'll use the rectangle frame tool, which again is similar to the rectangle tool. And I actually will show you this little color theme tool. I think it's a really useful one. And then down here we have our fill and our stroke, which is another word for outline, for whatever you have selected. So with this text frame that I have, if I click on the fill twice and I choose green, it puts a green fill in the frame. But if I look over here in the properties, I always lose it. Where'd it go? So depending on your frame, if you want to change the fill of the text, you might have to double click, highlight it, and then choose the text fill. This is going to be a bad, here, let's do dark blue. And then if I hit escape or go back to my selection tool, you'll see it now has dark blue. So that's your color changing. All right, I jumped the gun, but on the right-hand side, we have this dynamic panel called properties that, depending on what you have selected, will let you make changes to that part of your design. So if I have this frame selected, I can actually edit the text within it. I can edit the frame's appearance, and I can also use some alignment tools. If I double click, my appearance is now for the text. When I have an image selected, there is still a fill, which the image goes on top of it. So if you have an image, let's put the fill to pinkish. If I change this frame fitting from fill frame to fit, so fill frame will crop it to fill the entire frame. Fit will make it fit proportionately within it. That's when the fill is relevant. I don't know how important it is to know that, but I think it's it's good to know. And again, I have alignment tools, which are super helpful when you have multiple parts of your design selected, but also if you have one and you click it, it should align it to your page itself. But if I were to select this text, let's say this was off to the side, I hold Shift and select both, and I use the align center, horizontal centers. It will align them horizontally to each other. And then I can use smart guides to find the center of my design in general. You can see this magenta line showed up saying, hey, that's 50%. So that's a nice tool. Okay. We're feeling okay? Any questions so far? Super cool. So now we're talking about templates today. So let's go ahead and talk about making a template. Let's say you get to a point where you design something and you want to reuse this design as many times as you like with different content. So like I use this splash page with every workshop that I do, and maybe I want to use it again, but just change the image each time. So if I want to save this as a template, I can just go File, Save As, and instead of choosing InDesign, I can choose Template. And why is that important, you might ask? The importance of that is when you save it as a template, every time you open it, it makes a new untitled file instead of opening the actual template. That way you never risk altering your original. So if we see here, portfolio template.indt, InDesign template, when I open this, the title is untitled 4. And if I hit save, it will ask me to actually save it as something. So I went Command or Control S. And that's probably your good first step once you open it, is to save immediately and often, right? So I will say Command or Control S is another keyboard shortcut you should keep in your pocket. It's kind of a reflex for me, like every 2 or 3 minutes, I just go Command S to make sure I'm saving. Okay, so I would name this template demo 422. That's a good one. And now if we look at my folder that I designated for all of my project assets, there's the portfolio template and there's the demo of it itself. And in here, I made a folder called Photos. I'm going to be pulling some of these images. Is that opening up over here? There we go. It's in Allo. Very exciting. Okay. Maybe take a moment to open your template up at this point. We're going to start talking about placing content and modifying the template to our needs now. Okay, so we chose this portfolio template because we thought it was pretty relevant for most people. A lot of us have portfolios of some sort. If we're instructors, we often ask students to make portfolios, and giving them something to start with instead of just saying make a portfolio is a great way to demystify the process and get more people to successfully complete it, which is why I like templates. So this template has a cover, and it has 2 3-page spreads, and then it has a back cover. And it's somebody's graphic design portfolio, and we'll see how far we get into it. As something that I do, I like to grow and collect cacti, so I'm just going to fill it with pictures of different cactus. I know, super exciting. It's even less fun than watching grass grow. So let's start from the first page. And if we look at this, the template has the words portfolio, which they kind of designed for us, and we're not stuck with it. We can say, oh, I actually would rather it said, portfolio. And what you might notice is as I typed, my word just completely disappeared because now my word is bigger than my text frame. And I know that, so let me step back here. What I did was I double clicked and I typed folio. And then when I was done typing, I hit escape on the keyboard to commit the text. You can also just click on your selection tool to exit, but if you hit return, it will just enter down. So I'm going to hit escape. And if we look at this text frame, we can tell that it's tall and skinny. And we can also see this plus sign here. And this is our indication that there's text that is larger or longer than what the text frame can display. So I could click that and draw it out again, or I can just grab my corner and make the box bigger until it shows up. So just something that I've noticed some people get confused by when your parts of your design disappear. It's because your frame probably isn't big enough when it comes to type. With images, they just get cropped strangely. So, you know, whatever you want your design to be for this is good. And in fact, this isn't going to be my portfolio. It's going to be my Zero. That's cacti are called xerophytes, so nerd stuff. And fights, so same thing. And you can use the files I provided, or you can use your own. In my ideal world, you'd be playing with your own files here. All right, center it. Maybe I'll put a thing here. And if we look at this, we can tell that the text has been formatted to be centered within the frame. And that's over here in the properties. Paragraph is sent to align center. How do we get the vertical text thing? In this particular design, they did it the hard way. I don't remember the other way. They just entered down in between each one. So, good question, Tess. I think there is a vertical text tool in here. Type on a path. So you might make a path and do it, but I don't think we want to do that today. And of course, anytime. I know Illustrator and Photoshop have a super easy way of doing that. So, all right, I'm just going to keep mine weird like this. I don't know if this is something I would go with in general, but that's okay. In the interest of time, we will go like this. And then this particular portfolio, these X's are a design element. Like they're just part of the design. If they're not jiving with you, delete them. I'm not particularly into them for the cover. I think I want to put an interesting photograph in there. So this gray box is where I imagine a nice image going. All right, hopefully you came up with some choice for your title. Mine is Xerophytes. And we could go and edit the other text. So graphic design, I might say cactus cultivation. And it's still a works portfolio. My name is not Mary Smith. My name is, let's go fancy, Alejandro. How do I spell my name? Gonzalez. You have to look fancy with portfolios, right? And the year is wrong, 21. I guess 20 to 21 would make sense because 22 is not over. That's okay. All right. Now let's drop an image in here, and then I'd like to show you that little swatch eye dropper because it's how we can maybe determine our color scheme afterwards. So if I select this frame, this rectangle where I'm going to drop my image, there are quite a few ways to get an image in there. You can go File and Place, and then you can browse your files. So Photos, let's switch it to Icons. I'll probably use this 3237. It's this very mean looking barrel cactus. So I went File, Place, and put it in there. I'm going to undo. I can also, excuse me. Okay, something was going on here. Oh, there we go. I can also just drop the fixture in there. It was 3237. So from Windows Explorer or Macintosh Finder, it works the same. If you have a frame selected and you click and drag in there, it will put it in that frame, which is pretty nice. Now, let's say I don't have any frames selected. So if I just click over in my pasteboard area, I don't think that's the right name in InDesign, but that's okay. And I go back to Finder and I drop it in there. It'll feel like nothing happened. And then when I click on InDesign, you'll see my mouse has this little thumbnail of it attached to it. And basically, you can click once and choose a frame for it, or you can click and draw a new frame for whatever you're trying to drop in there. So there's a lot of ways to successfully get an image in there. Whichever one works for you is totally fine. I'm partial to selecting the frame and dropping my image, knowing that I have carefully organized my files beforehand. And I've made some pretty good changes. It might be a good idea to save now. So I'm going to hit Command or Control S. Were we able to drop an image in there? Dreaming. So if we look at this frame, much like when we were editing the text and the properties, we can go and we can give it an outline if we want. If we want it to have a stroke, I could click on the word stroke and I'll see some options here. Or over here in my tools, I can just double click stroke and choose a color. And you can kind of adjust your hue here. Maybe let's just choose, well, I don't know what color. Sorry, you don't need to watch me choose a color. So now it has a little red outline, which if I want to make it bigger, that's where the properties come in and I increase the size. It may or may not be the design you're looking for. And what you might notice is the stroke right now is going from the outside in. If you wanted to go from the outside and out more, you click on the word stroke. And over here, you can see, oh, it's actually going from the center out both ways. My mistake. You can say, go to the inside, go to the outside, or be centered. And you can also make other design choices like what do the corners look like? I think you can do dashed lines in here too. It's getting cut off. Maybe that's Illustrator, but that's okay. So there's my stroke. And here's my image. If we go further down, frame fitting is going to be an important part to get comfortable with and to understand. So when we drop an image in here, we can use these frame fitting quick actions, if you will. The first one is to fill frame proportionately. So my picture is actually different proportions than the frame I drew. So it's getting cropped within there. And that's fine. It maintains proportions and crops out what doesn't fit. The next one is called fill content proportionally. That means it'll squeeze the entire image in there and introduce blank space within your frame. And you can see it's blank space here. For this cover, it makes sense to have it fill it proportionately. One that you should almost never use is fill content to frame. And the reason you don't do that is because it stretches your image out. So you can see, sure, all the pixels are in there, but they got stretched out and have lost their proportions. And if you look at the arm there, it looks warped. So don't do that. The next one is fit frame to content. So if I do that, what it actually does is instead of adjusting the image, it adjusts the frame. So if I click, the frame got shorter. Hopefully we saw that. And then center within it. So if you have a really big image, let's fill proportionately, and then you center it, it will try and center it within there. And I'll show you in a second what that looks like. And then the last one is content aware fit, where it will try and look at your image and try and decide what the subject is and put it kind of optimized within there. In this particular image, it wouldn't do much, but say you had somebody that was off center in a large space, it would try and make sure that person fit within there entirely. So that's using these quick actions, which in my opinion are easier than using the mouse tool, but you can also just do it with your mouse. If you click on your frame, you'll see this center target. And when you click on that, you are now adjusting the image. So you can move the image. You can see I'm not very good at it within the frame. It's because when it disappears, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And you can resize it within here as well. Now, two reasons I don't like this is it's a little cumbersome. And number two, it invites you to squash your proportions. So if you are resizing it manually with your mouse, make sure you're holding shift on the corners when you resize it. And then this is when the center would make sense. It would center it within the frame. And if you are done adjusting the image and you want to adjust the frame, you just click back on the frame and now you're adjusting the frame instead. Let's do fit. Are there any questions about placing images, fitting them within a frame, moving them around in there or anything like that? And I will throw out there that your frames don't have to be rectangles. They can be any shape. So if I draw a circle here, and I drop an image in there, it will put your image within whatever your shape is. If you start to go real wild and use the direct selection tool, you can modify the anchor points of a frame and it will stay within there. So you can start to do some pretty cool design stuff too. Bonus material. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit of a McDonald's vibe here with the red and yellow, which is just not really who I feel like I am. So let's change this yellow to a color from my cactus picture. So towards the bottom above the hand tool is this color theme tool. If I click on that, you'll see the last color theme I got actually came out of this image. If you look, you can see the colors coming out of there. And what you do with this is you click on the image, the frame of what you want the color theme to come out of, and it will show you an array of colors that might work nicely. I wish it got the green in there. Let me reset it. Let's try again. Well, that's what it's going to do for me. But then you can choose a color from here, and when you click on it, you'll see the eyedropper is now facing to the right. Now it's saying, place this color here. So I can change the yellow to deep red. I can change the stroke as well. And if I like this gray, I can change the text to gray, which was not a good idea. So let's undo. But that's a really nice way to quickly have a color scheme made with very little thought, right? So you choose your image and you build it there. I might scroll all the way to the back cover, click on this deep red and change that as well. Why not? All right. This looks okay. If this was my personal project, I'd probably choose a font that I identified with. I might choose something different than black, but I think this is kind of fun. It looks almost like a framed and matted photograph, so I'm going to keep it. All right. Questions so far? It's okay if there's not. I don't mind. All right, so here we have Mary Smith portfolio again. So I might double click. Oh, is this part of a page layout? I didn't actually think to change that. All right, let's find it. Edit header. It's not showing me one though. Is this locked? Sorry, guys. I don't know why this template has that part locked. We're not going to worry about it. Let's just keep building. All right, so here with their design, they're saying, here's your project. And we can drop some images in here and change the title again. Spiky plants, pretty good. And if I wanted to, I could just go in here, Command or Control C and Command and Control V. I could also copy it and rotate it over. You can rotate these as much as you like. If you hold Shift, it keeps it to 15 degrees. And we could drop another image in here. We've got practice with that, so let's just put some images in here so that it looks nice. Photos, icons. I think this will be a nice back cover. So let's put go. And drop it in there. So I'll give it a oops. So you got to be sure you're selecting the right parts. Again, the X's weren't really exciting for me. I'm going to delete them. And let's drop that image in there again. Good. I'll need to do something for this project part, but we'll get to that in a minute. And let's drop a few more pictures. I'm going to choose ones that are pretty round. And it's letting me just drop them straight in there. Usually you have to select, but that's okay. All right, I hope you guys like cactus because we're going to look at quite a few of them today. Maybe the X's are working as a design element now, although I did eliminate them before, so I might just not have them at all. So I'm going to keep deleting them, or if I wanted, I could bring my color theme tool back up and give them one of those colors. Oh, I have to do each one. Let's not do that right now. Okay. And for the word project that is disappearing in here, I have a few options. I could put a fill on it. I could just put white, but then it goes onto my image. What I might actually do, I could give it a stroke as well. I think strokes can kind of look a little bit heavy sometimes, but you know, designer's choice. But if I give it a stroke and I make it bigger, oh, I'm sorry. I put the stroke on the frame. I get a little lost in things sometimes. None. Okay. Let's double click the text and let's give it a white stroke. And let's hit escape. So that's one way you could do that. I would probably, oh, there's still a stroke on the fill. That's not good. I said no stroke. There we go. I could also drop a shape behind it. So let's say I grab my rectangle tool and I draw a little rectangle and I fill it with white. And then I just take the opacity down. That's another way that, sorry, I drew something, grab my move tool, that I could make this work. But I do want you to notice that it's in front of the word project. So what's the best, quickest route to get the shape in between the word project and the image is probably to right click on project and arrange, bring to front. So it's up to you how you might do your designs, but just know that there's a few ways to help with readability. Or I might have just made part of the text white. Let's talk about dropping a little bit of text in here. With text, you can just, you know, double click and start to type your copy. I don't recommend doing that way because the grammar and spell checking tools aren't as robust as some dedicated word processing programs. It does have edit spelling. It has dynamic spelling. It will underline, and you can check spelling at the end as well, which you should do. But I would bring in text that you think is already ready. So let's undo. It's been a minute. Let's go ahead and save. Command or Control S. And what I'm going to do is something that I would never tell students or anyone else to do is I'm just going to copy and paste from Wikipedia and just these first few sentences about what cactus means and what they are. So right click, copy. And the reason I wanted to copy this is because you will see that there will be too much text. So I will double click. I can press Command or Control A to select it all. And you can paste. Command or Control V. And the web formatting doesn't come through, but if this was a Word document, it would have kept all of the formatting, the hyperlinks, the bold, italicized, anything like that, and the font as well. If I hit escape, you'll see that little symbol that says, hey, your text is cut off. And what I can do is one of my favorite features in InDesign is I can thread. Yeah, that's not a fun lesson test. When you learn, you have to check it yourself. Me too. I have to learn that lesson more than one time, unfortunately. If I hit the plus, it will say, all right, I have the rest of your text ready. Where do you want to put it? So this is called text threading, where it will take text that goes beyond your first frame and put it through as many other frames you like. When you click that plus, you can draw a new frame. And you can keep clicking it and keep drawing frames until you've done all of your text, right? But what's better is to send it over to the next dedicated copy space. So again, if I click that little plus that says, hey, too much text, and I just click on this text box, it threads my text over from here to here. And it is saying, hey, there's still a little bit too much, and I might decide to make the type smaller or to make my frame a little bit bigger. And you can see that that actually resolved the overflow, but it's a little bit unbalanced now. Up to you. One thing people notice right away is that it hyphenates things. If you don't want it to hyphenate, it's under properties. And when you double click, you'll see paragraph, and at the very bottom is hyphenate. And it applies to the whole box. You don't have to highlight anything, which is pretty nice. Any questions so far? I'd probably name it friends. They're my only friends. And my heading, how about spikes? Ooh, inspiration. And so we would just continue building our portfolio out through this template. And at this point, there honestly wouldn't be any new tools, right? I would keep placing text, editing fonts and the design, and placing my images until I've gotten to something that I am ready to share for feedback, review, and revision, right? And then go all over again. Let's do the back cover because I thought it would be nice to see the front and back. I liked, look at this cute baby. Sorry. This is a good cover image. And I thought maybe it would be fun for the back cover. Okay, what did it decide to do? Fill proportionately, to just let it fill the whole thing, right? It placed it centered, and I just used my fill tool. Although this green and red are a little bit strange. And actually I'll show you something. Because this is a linked file, I can actually open this in Photoshop. Ooh, I don't know if it'll work with a JPEG, but let's find out. I guess I'll do it destructively, which is not the right way, but that's okay. Here comes Photoshop. Got a spinning beach ball, sorry. Here we go. And let's say, oh, this is bad. I'm sorry. I'm going to make it black and white. Image adjustments. Let's use channel mixer and monochrome. And I could kind of mess with this a little. Ooh, very cool. Now it looks like like I'm making a zine. All right. And then if I go save, Command or Control S, it should update my linked file. I should get an error. See it down here at the bottom, this red circle, one error. It will say, bueno. Why didn't it auto update? Well, that's a little embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed. Usually it shows you a little option to update it, like right on top of it. That's my image. Oh, I don't think I finished saving, that's why. Yeah, it's because the zoom window is hiding my JPEG. Well, let's see what it says now. So 2 errors. I wonder what my first error is then. Well, oh, okay, sorry. Properties, update file, and then it'll update that version. Sorry, I get lost and I come in and out of so many of these programs that I go cross-eyed in them. So if you go and update a linked file, like you make changes to it, like I made this one black and white, then you click on it and you tell it in the quick actions, see it's no longer says update file because it is up to date. Other programs will say that it noticed it updated. Illustrator and Photoshop are like live updates of them. So I guess we know InDesign is maybe more of the stepchild compared to them. All right, so I'm not going to finish placing things. I feel like we saw how to add text, edit, and add images. I didn't talk about finding your font, but it's a pretty familiar space over here. If I didn't want Acumen Pro, I have other fonts here. And I will say something that I really love about the Adobe suite is that it's super easy to find and activate more fonts, and they activate for your entire operating system. So if you click on your fonts and you go find more, it should let you search. Oopsie. So it lets you search here, but the other way to do it is to just go to fonts.adobe.com and look for a font. So sign in correctly, continue. And the last thing we'll do is talk about saving and sharing. And InDesign has a really nice review space. Let's just go to recommendations, fonts.adobe.com. And here they come. So maybe I'm super excited about Fragile. Placato is what it's called. So to use this, I just go and activate whichever versions I want of it. Let's just do Placato Pro regular. And when I click that little radio switch, if I go back to InDesign and I choose the type and I look and I go down to the P's, or I could have typed, I should see, ooh, scary, doesn't want to. My demos aren't working today. Why isn't it giving me a live update? Now I'm sad. Does Photoshop have it? Sorry, you'll have to hear me think out loud. So maybe my accounts aren't logged in correctly. Hopefully it works for you, because usually if you go to fonts.adobe.com and you switch that little guy, it will automatically add to all of your fonts in your computer, which is usually super fun. Oh yeah, look at this. I'm having an Adobe error here. That's why a lot of my things aren't working. So apologies. At least we can still see each other, right? All right, let's talk about saving, which some things might not work, but along the way, we've just been saving, file save. But what we want to do now is save a version that doesn't require InDesign to look at it. And the quickest space to do that through is the universal export or share button. It's a square with an arrow going up. So when you click that, you see a few options. If you just want to email this to somebody, you might go quick export as PDF, and you'll choose, are you trying to print this, or are you just trying to send a nice small file? So if I click that, then I might call this V1 because I'm sending it to somebody for review. Generally, you can leave the PDF settings as they are. That's okay about the overset text. But don't worry about the error messages for now, because I think some of those things are strange template things. But if we look here, I have a PDF file called template demo V1, and you can see the final version come out as this PDF. The way it's set up as a spread, so I could send this to a publisher and have them print it with pages. I would not send them a PDF for that, but I might send them this for review. Some other share options are to package. So let's say this is buttoned up, it's gone through several feedback and revision loops, and I'm ready to send it to the printer. That's what the package option is for. It creates a nice folder with all of your assets, your fonts, your colors, and your file to ensure you get the highest fidelity version of your project, which is nice. And then share for review is one that I really like, that if you're a student, you might use this to share with your teacher. You name title, you go ahead and title it, and you go create. And what this does is creates a web version that you can either make publicly available or you can invite specific emails with. So here's the access settings. I'm going to say public, although I could invite specific people, and I can even put a password on it. So I guess I didn't need to update the link, but that's okay. So if I copy this and share it with you in the chat, you can all view my project And not only can you view it, you can comment and you can even notate on it. So somebody could say, grab the pencil, oh, grab a pen, cancel. And I could say, choose cooler font and submit. And this should show up on all your pages if you have it open. You can click that pin and see, well, what did somebody want? You can write a general comment. This is not finished. Oh, it looks cool. Thanks, Tess. I feel good after all my font failures. And this is a really nice way to quickly share something and get feedback. If you only want to share it, say there's like a flyer or something that you want to share or embed, the last option is really nice too, where you can go publish online and it will create a web hosted version of your project. I'm not sure why it didn't actually, you get this screen and same thing. This is my demo portfolio. You can allow if they can download it or if you don't want them to embed or anything like that. And when you click publish, you'll get another URL, but you won't have comments or notations as part of it, which is pretty nice. Let's see what happens with my, oh, here we go. These Zoom windows really make my workspace weird. I'm glad you like it, Jeffrey. I really like this too, especially if you're working on projects for someone else or as a team. It really helps streamline the changes. So copy, if I put this in the chat for y'all, and we go plus, you'll see it'll look very similar. We just won't see that nice pane on the right-hand side. We'll just see an online PDF that you can go through. And I mean, it came together, you know, the first pages we put together, they look pretty nice. The name's wrong. I'll have to figure that out. That's got me a little bothered, but we'll figure it out. And then the final one is if you've got very specific export settings, you can open up the export dialog and choose your other formats. So if somebody wants an EPUB, InCopy, XML, you can do those too. Very rarely do you need that screen. Okay, that is the gist of what I really hoped you would take away from today. I hope you found one or two useful things out of our time together. I'm not going anywhere. If you have any questions, feel free to hang out and ask anything about any Adobe stuff. Otherwise, thanks for joining, and I hope you have a really nice day. Thank you too, Caleb.